Hey, it's Central Valley Business. I'm your host, Steve Walling. My guest for this segment is Susan Bechara with Comprehensive Behavioral Services. Susan, welcome back to the show. You've been with me.
Thank you.
It's been a while, but I'm glad to have you back. So let's talk about Comprehensive Behavioral Services.
Okay.
What is that organization? What do you do?
Well, Comprehensive Behavioral Services actually has been in existence way back about 30 years ago under House of Hope for Youth model.
Okay.
So basically what we do is we're not a treatment program.
Right.
We're mostly intervention, directly an intervention program, dealing mostly with a population of high-risk youth from ages 9 years old until adults. When we say adult means including their parents. So we cover a lot of areas where we intervene to prevent further violent behavior.
So individuals that, basically you come into contact with, they're already either in the system or they're on their way to being in the system.
Exactly.
And things aren't looking good for them.
Right.
And somebody, whoever that somebody may be, has pointed them in your direction, whether it's the courts that say, here you go, this is your option, or, some other organization or individual that directs them to your organization.
Correct.
9 to adult.
Yes.
So when we work with this, and you told before we went on camera, it's not just working with the child. And I'll use child, understanding that spans that whole age group.
Okay.
But you work with the family also, don't you?
Oh, that's our biggest thing is that we have to involve the family. Unfortunately, in our world today, especially in the United States, the poverty is family. Not so much financial poverty. There is not very strong family unit or support in the home.
Right.
Many of our clientele that we serve, a lot of time they're missing one parent or the other, either a father or a mother or both. And they're being raised by relatives, mostly grandparents, or they're in foster care, or they're in the group home. So it's very hard to talk even about families unless you really have a solid family that consists of those parents.
And kids that fall through and end up in the foster care program, and I'm not casting dispersions upon the foster care individuals, but that oftentimes those kids transition from one foster parent to another. So there's no stability there.
No.
And they get no foundation.
Not really.
No. And so they're already behind. Going into adulthood. But when you have a child that is still with at least one member of the family, you've got more to work with, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, what we do, first of all, is to identify the root of the problem.
Right.
And because, especially in the state of California, I just have to focus on that. We have this approach when we're dealing with high-risk youth to victimize them. Yes, we know they're victims, but our program is specialized in removing them from that victimized thinking.
Right.
We recognize they've been victim of certain situation, maybe abandonment or whatever.
Right.
But we also teach them that you cannot continuously live as a victim with that mindset. So we like to hold them accountable, making sure they understand the bad behavior that they have. But there's also a learned behavior, which means just because you've done all these things, whatever your situation has been, we want them to hold accountable for the behavior, but we also want them to learn that they can be responsible in utilizing that experience.
So you're working with them to kind of take their story and they self-define by whatever their story is.
Exactly.
Take that story and say, okay, this is what happened, but this is in the past. You can't change 1 second worth of that. So let's take that story and put it on the shelf, and we can start today to create a new story, can't we? Now that's easy to say, but that's oftentimes very difficult for young people to grasp, isn't it?
Well, the reason why it's so difficult for young people, even some professionals, to look at our program is that because as long as that particular child or family are not aware of who they are, they'll never be able to understand why they need to correct themselves because they don't have a sense of value of who they are. And that's why we use a lot of biblical principle to help them define who you really are. And the way we do it, because I'm a strong Christian woman, I believe in the 3 dimension of our existence as human beings. And that has been so effective with a lot of the families I work with. We always tell them, you are a spirit being living with a soul in it, but living in your body. So everything that comes out of your behavior in the outside, which is the body,
Right.
actually is being ignited by what you're feeling from the inside, your emotion and your thinking. And where that comes from is coming from your emotion mostly, and that behavior manifests itself in the outside, in their behavior. Until they understand that, they'll never be able to understand, why am I thinking like that? Why am I doing things the way I'm doing? But then after that, we teach them about choices. You can have a lot of choices and free will, but we hold them accountable by telling them, you can choose whatever you want
But
to
no,
do,
no,
but there's
no.
consequences.
I'm a victim. I don't have a choice because, and that's kind of the
Exactly.
line, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because, and whatever happens after the because. They always have choices.
They always, everybody have a choice.
Most
to
often,
make.
they don't understand that they do have a choice.
Yes, they
and
do.
yet, that's the most powerful life tool that they have, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, and they can direct themselves.
Yes.
You know, do I go here? Do I go here? You know, and maybe, you know, they fall into a kind of a reactive
Right.
mentality where
Exactly.
instead of responding to what's going on,
Yes.
evaluating it and making a
Yeah.
different choice, they react and allow their emotions to explode or to
Right.
leave them there, and until they realize that they have the power in that moment to make
Yes.
choices. You know, they are victims, but they're not victims from the
Yes.
world. They're victims from themselves.
Exactly. So they need to learn to love themselves, and this is the way we do. We operate. We have 3 prongs.
Okay.
First, identifying who you are.
Okay.
And once you know who you are, you learn to love yourself. That's why I use biblical principle.
Okay.
Once you learn to love yourself, then you need to learn to hold yourself accountable and know why you behave a certain way.
Right.
And now here's where it fails as a society, especially in California. We all have a loving heart. We give them a lot of resources, right? But we victimize their thinking. So what happened in here is that we need to let them learn how to get help. They have to want to. That comes to the choices again.
Right.
The resources is out there. I know there are a lot of resources. But the thing is, they have to be willing to reach out to those resources. There's a section in the Bible that says, we teach people how to fish. We don't just feed them all the time. So a lot of programs are great. They feed, they give, they give, they give. And a lot of time, that does not really help much with the kind of clientele that I have, right? Then it becomes a habit. You know, it's
Right.
almost like they're entitled
Right.
to all these things because they're a victim.
So your organization, the individuals that end up coming to you,
Yes.
like I said originally, they come from like
Different walks of life.
Right.
They've been in trouble. Mostly, most of them are juveniles.
Uh-huh.
They've committed crimes. Can be some of them are pretty severe.
they come through the court system.
They come from the court system. They come from the police chaplaincy program. They
Okay.
come from self-referred, maybe from the churches, from other organizations,
Right.
from different agencies. Yes, they do come
And,
from.
and
all those
on
areas.
average, how many individuals do you work with?
Okay, in a year we have over 500 people that walks in. That means young and old, but majority of them, maybe about 50% of them would actually be in the program. You know what I mean?
Right.
That are active,
Right.
and out of that, I would say almost half of them would be successful if they choose to. If
So-
they choose to.
If they choose to. What got you into it?
My own personal life story.
Yeah.
Plus, I came from a country that are not, that they don't have that kind of provision, just
Right.
like in the United States, a lot of freedom where you have free education, you have free WIC program, you have free food stamp, you have free, so many free. So when I came here, I thought, wow, everybody in here should be pretty happy people. You know, they have all these resources of education and all. But when I got here, I noticed that a lot of kids were dropping out from school, and family units are not together, and that's what drove me to find out what is wrong with the system. And I recognize it's family. Family.
So Susan, your organization, I imagine you have more than just one need. You know, what are your needs? How can, like, somebody watching this particular segment, how can they help you? Obviously, financial donations would be a big thing, but beyond
Very
that,
much so, yes.
what about volunteerism, or are there other material things that can be provided for you?
Definitely.
Tell me about that.
You may laugh at this. I always tell people, if you want to donate to our organization, they have to donate with the heart, because we're not a nonprofit. A lot of people donate because they want to get a tax right. In this one, we just ask for donation from the heart. If you want to donate money, great. If not, you can provide us with office supplies, toilet papers, anything that we need for the daily use, or donate your time as a volunteer. But the one thing that with the volunteers and intern that we take in, we're very picky. Only because we don't want...
Yeah, they have to be screened in today's world.
They have to be
yeah.
screened, and also they have to have a tough love heart. Tough love heart means they cannot get these kids to feel more pitiful, because they're very manipulative. Some of my clients are pretty manipulative. That means they have to have thick skin with a big heart.
Yeah.
How's that? Like a giraffe?
And you defined, as you said, your clients are very, manipulative. It takes a high degree of intelligence
Yes, common
to
sense.
do that.
Common sense.
So these kids that fall through the cracks, that get into the system, we're not talking about individuals that don't have what it takes between their ears.
Right.
It's just what they have between their ears hasn't been directed in a constructive way that will affirm their life, and affirm their ability to be directive in their life.
Right.
And that's awesome.
It's really common sense.
Yeah. There's not a lot of common sense there, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
All right, Susan, how do we get a hold of you?
Well, they can get a hold of me by, contacting us. Our phone number is 559-243-9731. Where also they can email me at sbechara@cbsfresno.org. We also have another location that we go to in Parlia, the rural area.
Okay, so you're down in Parlier too.
Yes.
Awesome. Once you come back, we'll talk more about it. This is
Definitely.
a subject
I'd
that's
love
near
to.
and dear to my heart, okay?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you
so
again.
much for having me.
All right. And if you happen to know, be involved with, or just have a heart, a calling, get a hold of Susan at this Comprehensive Behavioral Services. I'll see you when we come back.